2004 team is still slightly ahead in its ranking than this year's team, both in how they performed and their personnel. And I have to say this in the area of class as well. And it's this area of class that I have to get off my chest because while the rioters left a black eye in terms of how our city is being viewed, the Vancouver Canucks have left a sour taste in terms as to how this team is being viewed around North America. And it pains me to say it, really, but believe me, there were large portions of hockey people and fans around North America who were thrilled that they didn't get it done last night. They weren't a popular team. They weren't even Canada's team. And why is that? I mean, should we care? Maybe not. Maybe you don't care. I don't know why I do, but I do. And why is it? Well, because they don't conduct themselves with the kind of honor they should be, that most teams do. And it's hard to know where to begin with all this and where it all started. Playing with honor on ice, conducting yourself with honor when you're speaking to the media and such, getting your message out to the public. Now, some of them do it, and you know what? Let me start by saluting those twins, who I have grown, like so many, to have such a ton of respect for in terms of how they keep battling on the ice, even though they were being pounded, and they didn't have people around them to protect them. They should have, but that's a different story. But also how they are so honest with every question they answer off the ice, that they're always accountable. And then from a humanitarian standpoint, again, the large donation they made to BC Children's Hospital, they're not born and raised here, and there they are as part of our local community, not only visiting hospitals, but reaching into their own pocket, making a huge donation. If that's not honorable, I don't know what is. They are honorable. And there are others in the organization that are honorable. Believe me, I'll go through the list anytime when we have time. So I'm not including everyone in what I'm about to say, but there are players that don't play with honor, and there are people connected with the team who have made it hard to get a lot of respect for them. Let's start with how embellishing and diving is a problem in hockey, and to some degree it has been in the game, but in a smaller way. I mean, Bill Barber was a noted diver for the Flyers back in the 70s, so I'm not saying they invented diving. But in the last couple of years, and regular listeners know, I've been on this for at least 2 years, they've taken it to a new level. Diving, embellishing, faking their way to power play after power play, and it was working for a large time. It got to be every game you could count multiple examples. And shame on the NHL for taking so long to get on it. But shame on the Canucks for making it part of their game plan. It's not honorable. Alex Burrows is a serial embellisher. Kessler, great hockey player, serial diver. The Twins dive a lot. Mason Raymond, the goalie, Luongo. There's probably more on the list. But when you do that, and you show up the refs, and thereby show up the game in the league, well, it starts to become too much. And it started to rear its ugly head, and it should have been kiboshed by the Canucks when Burrows embarrassed the league during OJ Gate. Before this season, it put the Canucks in a bad light. OJ Gate was what, last season? His coach Vigneault, his GM Gillis, should have spoken publicly how they don't want this. They should have sat him down and said he broke a major code, but they didn't. And it spoke to the mindset of the organization. The code was broken. You don't quote a referee as saying basically the fix is in, especially in the circumstances that took place. I mean, what's said on the ice usually stays on the ice. OJ could have handled it better, but like many refs before him, I think all he was trying to do is teach a young player a lesson. You can't show up the league with your diving. And Burrows, Gillis, Vigneault, instead of looking in the mirror, they decided to take the league on, as if the organization had been hard done by, making themselves the victim. And of course, they have their usual media types, those people they rely on to spread their message, the Gallaghers, the Pratts, those types. They made it a big issue. Next thing you know, it's a fan base all crapping on the NHL. Oh, they have it in for us. The NHL has it in for us. And you know what? It sets the tone. And it did. It set the tone for the next year or so, and what was to come. It never got better. In fact, it escalated, both on and off the ice. I've had other people in the medias around North America ask me, why does a team that's never won anything come across as so cocky, so arrogant, and lacking class and sportsmanship? And how am I to answer that? Whether that's 100% fair, who knows, but that's the feeling that's out there. And it sure doesn't help matters when you have an owner Francisco Aquilini conducting himself in the manner he apparently did after the game last night, according to veteran writer Cam Cole of the Vancouver Sun. And I quote, "Then there was the Canucks owner, Francisco Aquilini, directing the same coarse four-letter obscenity repeatedly at reporters, including CBC's Karen Larson, who were trying to interview him in the locker room, where, as usual, was the Sedin twins, stand-up guys to the end, and very few others facing the music for their teammates, most of them hiding in the back rooms until the crowd thinned out. So what are the chances of that unfortunate part of the team culture changing when it starts at the top?" End quote. That's from Cam Cole. Aquilini delivering some F-bombs to reporters? If you're going to go to the dressing room after the game and there are reporters there, should you not be mature enough to either say no comment or walk away? I'm told it took Mike Gillis to guide him out of there before it got worse, before more damage was done. Like Cam Cole says, it starts at the top. Just as the absolute stupid decision they made as an organization when they should have had much bigger things on their plate to go after Kingsway Honda. This was one day after their round one win, obviously with their chests puffing. They wanted to sick the NHL lawyers on Kingsway Honda, saying you can't use Go Canucks Go on your showroom window. The team whose mission statement is "We are all Canucks" are telling them and other businesses you can't use Go Canucks Go? I strongly suspect they were actually targeting one of our big sponsors, because the point of view that comes from this show that you're hearing right now is one they don't get very often. They don't like, because they don't have any control over this show, and I'm sure they don't like that. But I'm told after they beat Chicago, this is how it, well, I know it was the day after they beat Chicago. By the way, when they beat Chicago, for some reason, the three Aquilini brothers apparently staged some weird kind of three-man hug, huddle, celebration chant in front of reporters in the dressing room. Those that saw it told me it looked very weird and not really how you think owners would act in public, especially given it was only round one. But anyway, hours after their round one victory, the organization, whether they're Aquilini signing off on it or whoever, somebody did, asking the NHL lawyers to send a letter to Kingsway Honda saying, "Can't say Go Canucks Go." Fast forward 3 rounds, it's reported in the Boston Globe earlier this week, not only were the Canucks planning the parade, which, by the way, to me has to be planned. Parades just don't appear out of thin air, so I don't have a problem with that. But they wanted to sell the TV rights to the parade, according to this report. And if that's not somewhat greedy and arrogant, then what is? I mean, you want to have the TV right? Nobody. That's unprecedented. You want to have the TV rights to a parade sold, and I presume you want to use the taxpayers' streets to have your parade? Wow. In the final series, of course, the Canucks unfortunately had things along this honor theme rear its ugly head a few times. Burrows biting a player broke a major code. He already pulled hair in the past. He's embellished. He's been a diver. I think Gino Ojin was quoted on TV as saying the only thing left for him to complete the girl-fighting hat trick is to scratch somebody in the eye, or words along those lines. Maxime Lapierre taunting Patrice Bergeron in Game 2, the player who had been bit by Burrows. Alain Vigneault never saying a word criticizing his own player for biting or the other player for taunting, but Claude Julien sure did, showing you what a coach with real integrity and class will say about those kinds of shenanigans. Vigneault was, forget the biting, but Vigneault was embarrassing on the big stage with the way he answered, or I guess more correctly, refused to answer question after question to the North America assembled media. Sorry, Philip Till, but Rick Quinton was 100% right with what he was trying to tell you. And please don't tell local sports media to do some digging. You try digging with the Canucks. We'll see how far you get. Because the PR staff of the Canucks also takes its cue from Aquilini and from Gillis and Vigneault in terms of their smugness and cooperation. And again, last night, 5-6 players were made available after the game. They lost the game. They don't want to be available to talk to. I'm sure if they won, they would all be out there. Vigneault was some of his answers were just so embarrassing. The biggest example to me was when Manny Malhotra already played a game, and he was asked if he was going to play the next one, and he's day-to-day. Sure. So, and the Boston Bruins game plan was really going to change if they just heard Malhotra was going to play tonight. Ryan Kessler answering to reporters with the same answer. "I'll look at the tape, get back to you tomorrow." I'll look at the tape, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll look at the tape, I'll get back to you tomorrow. This was after a full year when facing no adversity. The Canucks tried to tell us how different he actually was. Roberto Luongo breaking the code, shaking everyone's head when he said he would have stopped the one goal in Game 5 that was scored on Tin Pong Thomas. He would have stopped it. This after he was ventilated for 12 goals against in the previous 2 games. Both teams used injured players to try to get their fan bases going. And I mean used them, got them on the big screen. Manny Malhotra was welcomed back. I don't know, was it 3-4 times? Maybe it was only twice, but I don't know how many times you welcomed somebody back. Nathan Horton on the screen waving the towel. Was it a little much, though, to make sure that back brace was over top of Mason Raymond's shirt last night? Did people read into that? I hope they didn't fly him in just to be used as a prop. I don't know how seriously hurt he is. Remember, the Canucks told us Manny Malhotra was done for the year. They also told us nothing about that injury when it happened. The only information we seemed to get was from a 2-time NBA Most Valuable Player. Then we were told that they would tell us when it was appropriate to tell us anything more. And Malhotra, who was revered by the fans here for the longest time, wouldn't speak to them through the media. His eye was hurt. His mouth, I was told, still worked. At least Mike Gillis didn't call a news conference in the final round, as he did in the first to show up the NHL refs. And that was an embarrassing display of statistics he just happened to have in his lapel pocket. Oh, here we go. So, if you get the point, I could probably go on and on with this. You'd be right. But here's where I'm going with this. Perhaps they don't care, and perhaps you don't care how they're being viewed league-wide. But if they do happen to want to be known as a more honorable organization, they have to start looking in the mirror and changing the way they conduct things. Now, I don't like their chances. They're not a gracious bunch. I mean, Mike Gillis never once publicly acknowledged the work of Dave Nonis and Brian Burke and all the assets that were in place here to help this team be as good as they are. I mean, when Brian Burke won the Cup in Anaheim, he constantly praised Brian Murray for what was in the cupboard